Hello and welcome to episode 34 of A Tonic for Lunacy. Today I have guests, so I'm not alone, just talking to myself. I'm here with Whitney. Everybody probably already knows Whitney, and Madeline, who is a holistic nutritionist. Welcome. What I'm hoping to kind of get to today, well, one, we're doing so in Shadow Stripper School, June is all about nutrition and health and the body. So Whitney and I thought it would be really cool to bring a holistic nutritionist on the podcast to chat about all things being healthy and nutrition in the body and dot dot dot. And then we were going to kind of try to see if we could weave in human design or just see where it takes us. So Madeline, welcome. We'd love to know a little bit about you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. So my name's Madeline Hughes. I am a holistic nutritionist. I specialize in women's hormones. So all the ranges that pretty much is like from the start of like life to the end of life. Because we're all going through different phases of hormonal seasons. And so what I do pretty much is work with women that are struggling with some sort of hormonal influctuation. The reason why I got into that work was because of my own health journey, which is pretty much why all of us practitioners get into whatever work we're in, is just because we're interested in doing something for ourselves, right? So I struggled with endometriosis for many, many years. And I got diagnosed at 19 years old and had the bloating, the GI issues, really bad like hormone swings, mood swings, anxiety, lots of like random weight gain that shouldn't have been happening. And then I had multiple miscarriages. And that's what really triggered me to go deeper than just conventional medicine and what is in our matrix, right? And so I went back to school for holistic nutrition and started healing myself. And then my daughter was born, and she came out probably with my own ancestral childhood traumas that were never dealt with prior to having her, conceiving her. She came out with really bad eczema. And so I took a step back and focused on healing the gut. And so I could heal her issues, her underlying issues, and get to the root cause. And that really catapulted my career in working with the gut and hormone regulation.
Can I ask you what the root cause was of that?
Um, I think that, to be honest,
Like, how did you heal it? I guess is a better question.
Well, children are really sensitive to anything that goes in their sphere, like mentally, physically, spiritually. I would believe that. And the reason being physically is because they have an unsealed gut lining. So all of us have a sealed gut lining, or we should. And if you've ever heard of the term leaky gut, that's when you create holes in your gut lining and things seep into your bloodstream. And babies are actually born with open gut linings because they haven't matured yet. And so I think for her specifically, I'm not sure what we're allowed to talk about on here.
Anything and everything. Nothing is off limits.
Okay, I think Whitney knows my child's story. So I'm like looking at Whitney, like, give me the look I can't talk about this. Okay.
I know you can. Please.
But
If you think you can't talk about it, then please talk about it.
okay. I think that it stemmed for her because I was a new mom and I wasn't very educated, and I trusted my doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And she went through the standardized injections
Yeah.
that
You can
every
say it.
child vaccines. She got vaccines. We also lived in a house that we realized later was infested with mold. So I think it was just like a
combination.
nasty concoction of, toxicity buildup in her body at such a young age. And so for me, I believe that was what triggered it for her. And then on top of it, stress and anxiety that was probably passed down, through me, that was never dealt with during my birth or her birth. And so yeah, I worked really, really diligently. I changed my diet because she was so young when it started. She was about 9 months old when it started getting bad. Um, and I noticed when she was even younger than that, that she was we thought she had colic. And she was just gassy all the time. And those aren't like normal symptoms of how babies should be, growing. Those are actually early signs of like a immune disruption. And so I quickly noticed that. And so I changed my diet. And then once she started eating solid foods, I introduced bone broth to her and kefir. And she just was on like a completely whole foods diet. We experimented with a whole bunch of things because, again, I was still like a new mom, and we had her on different supplements, which I would never put her on now or suggest to clients, but she was like my test dummy.
You live and you learn.
You live and learn. Yeah.
So I didn't know that children were born like without a gut lining. Do you think that's why like and I realize that I don't think you're like a MD, and
Mhm.
obviously neither am I. But do you think that that's why we're so susceptible to holding on to trauma in our guts as children, because
Yeah.
of that open gut lining? Also because of the, fight or flight, reduces digestion and things like that. But
Yeah,
that's
for
so
sure.
interesting.
I was just gonna say, having an open gut lining, that's why, in my opinion, and I did not follow this rule, so I'm not putting judgment on anyone. Um, I really think that you need to work on healing your own traumas emotionally before you go into having kids. Because for me, like, she's 6 years old now, and I still see some stress triggers in her, even though we've worked really hard in healing that for her and for ourselves, my husband and I. Um, I think the stress, the coping mechanisms that she lacked when she was a baby, um, elevated her cortisol, elevated her adrenaline, which puts your body in fight or flight, and like you said, and doesn't allow your body to rest and digest and heal. And so all your other organs kind of shut down and don't work as optimally. And unfortunately, your gut and digestive system, they're put on the way back burner for that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Sorry, I just went on
fascinating.
like a tangent right there.
No, we love tangents. Um, but no, that's just so interesting because I'm thinking of like my own experiences, my own stories. Like, you know, I, I don't know if you know any of my story, but I was born in Israel and I moved to America when I was 8. And it was like a running joke in my family that like I was always nauseous for like my entire life, especially as a baby. I would always cry. My mom tells me all the time that my daughter now is my karma because I
Mm,
was like such a colicky baby. But now I'm like, this makes so much sense. Like you
yeah.
have that open, gut lining, and there is so much trauma and so much stress all around you. I guess you just don't realize how important those things are.
For sure.
I'm going to take a moment to interject here and just bring up that Donna, Madeline, and Madeline's oldest daughter that we're talking about are all emotionally undefined in the body graph.
Hmm. Interesting.
So if we talk even more about stress and cortisol and emotional regulation and dysregulation and what that can do to the body, especially the gut, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% the amplification of other people's emotions, being the empath, amplifying other people's stressors, other people's feelings, other people's inability to regulate their nervous system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It would be interesting to see like what percentage of people with undefined solar plexuses have like digestion or gut issues based compared to like people that are defined.
That would be a really fun market research to play with.
Yes, we'll put that in the notes. Um, what was I'm trying to remember what else I was going to ask you. Whitney, do you have for the questions? Sorry.
Yeah, so we were also going to talk about patterns that you've been seeing
Oh,
with
yeah.
nutrition or women's health, and especially now that we're talking about emotions, like I'm super interested in people's cortisol levels when they come to you and how that correlates with like what they're trying to recover from, or like is it weight loss that they're looking for when they're super stressed out? What's the correlation there?
Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up because I've kind of like changed, evolved my process in working with clients to always now the first thing that I ask them is, what does your family dynamic look like? What does your lifestyle look like? Because I actually had a call yesterday with a woman who is trying to get pregnant, and she also is struggling with weight. And she was hungry for advice on what she should be adding into her diet. And I said, first thing that I want to know is, what does your lifestyle look like? She runs her own business. She's been doing that for quite a few years. And she just recently had a miscarriage. And she's been doing all the right things, workout wise. She's been eating all the right things. And she's just like dumbfounded at why she, had a miscarriage. And it's because of stress. 1000% it's because of stress. And so the first thing that needs to happen is you need to look at what your family dynamic looks like. So are you supported, in healing your body and healing your mind, in leveling up? And then also, are you managing your stress? We can't run away from stress. It's always going to be there. I have 3 kids, 6 and under, and I'm pregnant. And so, my stress levels are all over the place right now. It's a lot, but we need to figure out a way to mitigate that. So that looks like breath work. That looks like having me time, which is very important. Whitney and I chat about this often. And that also looks like, replenishing your body. So the first thing that needs to be done is getting your body out of running on stress hormones. All the women that I talk to, their body 1000% is running on stress hormones. If you wake up in the morning and you're one of those people who's like never hungry, that's a red flag. You should be waking up famished. And if not, then that means your body's running on stress hormones. If you feel like you need coffee throughout the day, your body's running on stress hormones.
Wait. Okay. I have a lot to ask, but I did write this down because I think this is so important that like it should be repeated. Are you supported in your healing? Like so many of us are not supported in our healing, in our businesses, and in anything. So that's really important. But wait, I wanted to ask you about if you wake up famished. So like, what if you do intermittent fasting? Like I do intermittent fasting, so I don't typically wake up hungry. You said no.
Love that.
You're not a fan? Okay, no, tell us. Challenge us, please.
I don't like intermittent fasting for women in specific phases of life. More specifically, all phases of life. I'm trying to say that really nicely.
No, you don't need to say anything nicely, please.
The issue with intermittent fasting for women is that our bodies need glucose. Like we need complex carbs, but we also need fast carbs. And the issue with intermittent fasting is you have a short amount of time to add in not just the right amount of calories that your body needs, which most of us are under eating, which puts your body in a state of fight or flight, running on stress hormones, but also you need a specific amount of carbohydrates, the right kind of carbs. But if you are intermittent fasting, a lot of people focus on the protein and the fat so that way they get more calories in, right? Exactly. And that your body needs the glucose in order to make your liver function. Liver is important for women specifically because we need to detox out those excess phytoestrogens from our body. Phytoestrogens is what causes the majority of all of our hormone fluctuations. And so the reason you wake up and maybe you feel great on a keto diet, or maybe you feel great on intermittent fasting, but that's because your body's running on stress hormones. And so that adrenaline that's pumping through your body, you're like, you feel great. That's not real. And that will fade over time. And what I've seen in working with women that have done keto or intermittent fast is it works for maybe a year. I've seen it, a year is the max that I've seen. And then it starts to phase out a little bit, and it's not healthy and sustainable. And that's the thing. I think that keto or intermittent fasting or these diet trends that are going on now can be great for a short amount of time to get you jump started into a healthy and sustainable lifestyle for yourself, but it's not great long term.
Yeah. So, okay, so I currently do keto and intermittent fasting, and
I'll send you my program.
And I do really like it, but you're right, it was definitely a catalyst. Like it pushed me into like this healthier lifestyle, and it's good for right now. I recognize where it's not sustainable, but then my question is, like, we're all so different. So is what you're saying right now, that we need to eat in the morning and we need to have a certain amount of glucose and carbs, is that true for everyone, or is there like a customized method or process that you use for people, and what's that based off of?
Yeah. So what I do personally with my clients is, so if you were a client coming to me, you'd be coming to me because you have some sort of symptom that you're not happy about, right? And most of those symptoms stem from hormone influctuations or gut health problems. And so I normally would suggest that you follow a more gut-friendly diet, which is what I chat about like on my channel and in my program, all the foods that I promote that aren't going to disrupt your gut. And so it also works on a timeline. So you're going to be eating specific macronutrients during specific times of the day in order to avoid blood sugar craziness, and stabilize your hormones and stabilize your mood. After you heal whatever symptoms you have going on, and you feel like you test it, and maybe you go out and you go to a Mexican restaurant and you have beans and rice and all these random things that would normally disrupt your gut health, and you start to feel great, then you can kind of pick and choose what type of lifestyle you want to live, right? It's all about healing the gut first, because once the gut's healed, then the hormones are stable. Then you can kind of fine tune in order to create a sustainable lifestyle for yourself.
Got it. Okay.
Because following a specific diet is not sustainable for anyone long term. Who wants to follow a freaking, meal plan forever?
Right. Okay. So I totally disrupted your conversation about your client that had miscarriages, and we were talking about stress. I just want to go back there in case somebody's listening to this and they're like, why did you interrupt her? You said that she had a miscarriage and she was like, I don't understand what's happening. And then you started talking about stress.
Mm-hmm. And so she is at a point in her life now where she wants to take a step back from work, because her and her husband want to grow their family. They have an 18-month-old baby and they want to have another baby. And so the first thing that she's going to be focusing on is slowing down. Most of us are told to just go, 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 go. We all want to have our own business. We want to be the, amazing superhuman moms, the amazing wife, whatever it is that you're striving for. Take a step back and look at what your priorities are, because you can't do it all. And that especially, I feel like in our society now, we as women are being pressured even more than we've ever been to do everything. And that is not sustainable for us. I keep bringing the word sustainable up because that's literally like my motto. You have to be able to run on all cylinders. And so for her specifically, we talked about what taking a step back looked like. And she decided to hire out help with work, which a lot of us don't want to do, but again, you can't do it all. And that would allow her to take 10 hours off of her work week. So instead of working in 55 hours, she can now work around a 40-hour work week, which is normal. And it would also give her more intentional time with her son that she already has, which is something that I could tell was struggling with emotionally. And that underlying emotional guilt that she feels every day, she can suppress it and suppress it all that she wants, but her body feels it.
Yeah.
Right. Especially, in my opinion, that gets suppressed down into her womb. And that is blocking her from having another baby. And so she focuses on her lifestyle for a few weeks. And then once she feels at a more calm state, then we focus on reintroducing foods that are going to replenish her mineral stores, because most of us women are deplenished in that, and really rehydrate her cells.
Yeah. What would you say is like, and I know it's not, you probably can't give me like a list, even though I'd like one. Like, how does one know if one's hormones are imbalanced?
You mean like what symptoms are?
Yeah.
Pretty much every single symptom that you're suffering with. I'm kidding. So
Like, what do you typically see?
I see, the first thing I see is actually not physical, it's emotional. So
Interesting.
are you highly triggered? Do you get triggered very easily? Are you stressed easily? Do you have anxiety? Do you go from 0 to 100? Those are symptoms that your hormones are disrupted, because your body is running off of cortisol and adrenaline. Then physical symptoms would be like, what do your periods look like? Are they heavy? And do you miss a period? Do you have them too often? What is your cycle? Are they painful? How far along postpartum are you? Did you just have a baby and you're back at work right away? That's a problem. Depending on who you are. I don't want to be judgy, but are you having a hard time gaining weight? Are you having a hard time letting weight go? Do you have skin issues? Do you have dry skin? Do you have eczema? Do you have acne? Do you bloat really easily after everything that you eat? Do you have gas, bloating, flatulence? Pretty much any symptom that makes you feel heavy,
Is related to hormones.
Yeah. I would say, in my opinion, everything's related to our hormones.
Wow.
If you're just not feeling your best, then there's always something that you could be doing better. Are you tired often? That's a big one too.
So then how do you manage 2 kids, being pregnant, and a business, and not, and living a healthy lifestyle?
It's different day by day.
Yeah.
I used to have like this plan in my head of how I managed it. And my husband recently went back to work, who was working alongside of me for the past 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And so, the past month and a half, my management has looked a lot different. I think that it is different in all phases of life. And this season of life, I am just now figuring out that I'm learning how to just breathe, because it's really heavy right now. I mean, I'm not gonna, lie. It's been really heavy. And so little things for me that allow me to make sure that my cup is being filled is waking up before my kids wake up, which has been difficult because I am the middle of my pregnancy. And so I need my rest. But waking up before them to make my warm lemon water that I like to drink in the morning, have some bone broth, prep for our food that day. I make everything homemade aside from the occasional, running out, which is a lot, and I empathize. I'm in the same phase of life that all of my clients are, that most women are. it's heavy. And so also I'm learning to give myself grace during this phase of life, which none of us are good at. Every woman that I talk to, we're also good at giving the advice, but we are not good at giving that advice to ourselves. And so I've been really working on releasing that mom guilt, because again, like I've been saying, I can eat as healthy as I want and, do the proper workouts and, drink the right juices or water or whatever. But at the end of the day, if I'm suppressing any sort of shame or guilt in my body, which I hold, that's affecting my hormone health. That's affecting my baby that is growing inside of me. That baby is going to come out with the same anxieties and stressors that I am harboring inside of me. So I really try to, when I chat with a client or just a friend, I really try to look at their life and their family dynamic and see how you can make it work for yourself, because it's not like a one size fits all. Everyone's life looks so different. And especially like relating it to human design, everyone is so different. There's these categories that everyone can fit into, but within those categories, there's so many different things. So relating that to human design is actually a really beautiful thing that Whitney has taught me in working with her as well, because it allows me to understand how to work with myself a little bit better, how to work with my children a little bit better, how to make these health standards that are a priority for me in my life, how to make them work and fit into our family dynamic, because we're all so different and we have a large family. And so, fitting all of that in, understanding your human design does really help as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I would assume that it would take a lot of like, these are my values, this is who I am, this is what I stand for. Everything else just doesn't really fit into my world.
Yeah.
Like if you're wishy-washy about your beliefs or your values, then it's very easy to go off track and then be like, oh my God, here I go again. We're having McDonald's for dinner.
For sure. Yeah.
Because that
And
is definitely easy.
also on the same, the different end of that spectrum, giving yourself a little freedom too. Because for the longest time, I would consider myself, I was an orthorexic, which means like I was so obsessed with health and so obsessed with putting the right things into my body that it was unhealthy. And so now I'm in a place where, you know what? I feed my family. I cook them the best meals. I give them the best, highest quality foods 90% of the time. If I want to take my kids out to get freaking pizza, I'm going to do it and not feel shame about it. If I'm exhausted at the end of the day and I am going to order DoorDash, you know what I mean? Give yourself grace with that.
Yeah.
I want to touch on
Yeah.
the fact that we're talking about energy and keeping up with the family of 3 kids, being pregnant, maintaining a household, cooking from scratch. Like that's bananas to me, number 1. But also, it's important to know Maddie is a splenic projector.
That's what I was going to ask.
She also has 2 manifesting generator children and 1 manifester. So there's a lot of energy in the house, and there's a lot of like strong-willed energy, not even just like, lightning in a bottle, but also like I know exactly what I want and you're not going to change my mind. So that's a lot to navigate anyway. But then if you add like all the time, because it takes you a lot of time to make these meals and to be conscious about what you're doing, and it takes you a lot of time to do the grocery shopping, but you do it in such a beautiful way. And when you teach people that, it like you make it seem so simple, and you really do a good job of taking away like you just make it seem attainable to like a normal human like me who's not like some anomaly like you.
Yeah, I think it has to be like part of your identity. Like, this is just
100%.
who I am. It's like that Dilt's pyramid where we have like the purpose, identity, behaviors, environment. Like, it literally has to be who you are
And I've
inside.
known Maddie, Madeline is what you go by professionally. I've known you, it's been like 10 years now? And that is absolutely, like, when you said you have to be really strong in your values, like 100% she is. And I think that's such a cool thing that you just brought up, because that's exactly who she is as a person.
Oh, thanks, Whit. Yeah. I mean, it just comes down to like, how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
Right. And talking about health specifically and children, like, the younger you teach them, the better success they're going to have. Right. Like, my kids have only known one way. So when people come to me and they're like, how do you get your kids to eat so well? Or, I can't believe your kids eat like that. Well, first of all, it's not always like that. Okay. My kids they just asked for goldfish and Cheez-Its yesterday because we were at a pool party and their friends had it. So it's not like that all the time, but they've only known that from the start. And so the earlier you start, the better success you'll have. If you're someone that's coming into it and your kids have been eating like the standard American diet for a while, then you just start slow, and you start habit stacking. That's something that has really helped me along this journey, because I wasn't always like this either. And my food philosophy has definitely changed over the years. And the number one thing that saves me is the Instant Pot. If you don't have an Instant Pot, and you especially are like a busy woman or a mother, you need to get one. It will change everything.
Is that
And
the
a lot
same thing as a crock pot?
what?
Is that the same thing as a crock pot?
No, girl. No.
No.
Same thing as a crock pot.
It is so much better.
It's a pressure cooker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so like one thing that I recommend every single person starts putting in their diet, if you get anything from this episode, start adding bone broth into your diet. It will 1000% change your life. I know it will. I've never had someone challenge me on that. And what I do is, people get very intimidated by making their own bone broth. You don't want to buy store-bought. You want to buy freshly made. And people get intimidated by it because it takes a really long time and it's very high maintenance if you do it on the stovetop or even in a crock pot. So you can make it in 2.5 hours in an Instant Pot. You have a plethora of bone broth. I also teach how to make it with scraps, so like veggie scraps and like chicken carcass that you roasted overnight. So you're essentially doing, if you've ever heard of like the nose to tail eating way, you are reusing everything that you already would have bought anyway, and you're extending that life, if that makes sense. And so you're essentially healing your body for free. So yeah, I went off on a tangent again there, but it's all about priorities and it's all about the Instant Pot.
So if somebody wants to learn more about what you do and all of these great tips, where can we find more information?
You can find me I'm pretty much only active on Instagram. So you can find me there at Madly Holistic.
And we'll put links in the show notes.
Perfect. And then yeah, I have like a free cookbook on how to heal your hormones. And also a free masterclass that teaches you all those steps at madlyholistic.com.
Awesome.
So great free resources for anyone who's looking.
Whitney, did we have any other questions?
I have a personal question.
Okay. Great.
So we just talked in Shadow Stripper School about format energy and nutrition involved with that. And I have exactly one gate, I want to say, that is my that is format energy, and it's 53, and it's all about taking in fats and oils. And I know that the world talking about oils is like a shit show right now. So like, what are healthy fats and oils that are like gonna be beneficial for me? Please and thank you.
Okay, so we'll talk about fats first because it kind of bleeds into oils. So what you want to focus on is saturated fats instead of unsaturated fats. So saturated fats are things like butter, ghee, you know, any fat that you're getting from like animal protein, those are amazing fats. You want to avoid saturated fats. And a great way to think about
Avoid
this,
saturated fat.
I'm sorry,
You said avoid saturated fat?
unsaturated fat, sorry. So
Unsaturated. No,
a
no.
good way, an easy way to remember this, unsaturated fats are unstable, saturated fats are stable. Unsaturated fats lead to oxidation,
Okay.
which is, if you've ever heard of like free radicals in your body, it creates cellular damage, which leads to the plethora of health issues that we all face. So you want to avoid things like PUFAs and HUFAs. So PUFAs are polyunsaturated fats. You'll find those in things like seeds, grains, legumes, corn, and soy-fed animal products, and like vegetable oils, canola oil. Those are HUFAs. So
We don't want to eat nuts and seeds.
yeah, if you are, this is when it gets touchy. So
It's nuanced.
very, very. If you want to work on healing your gut and healing your hormones, I say you avoid nuts and seeds, just for a phase, just to heal that up. And the reason being is because nuts and seeds, and certain plant foods that are health foods, they put off something called anti-nutrients. And anti-nutrients, if you want to get into the science of it, they are very hard for our body to digest. It's essentially the plant letting off like a poison because it doesn't want to be eaten. And so it makes it harder for our bodies to digest. I mean, if you think about like a squirrel, for instance, they gather all these nuts before hibernation, and you know how they bury them down in the ground? That's actually not to save them to eat later. That is a way to sprout them. And when they sprout, the nuts and the seeds are actually releasing that anti-nutrient, so it's easier for us to digest. So if you want to eat nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, things like that, you want to get sprouted, or you want to soak them for a day or two, and this will slowly start the process of sprouting yourself, and it releases those anti-nutrients. And so it makes them much more bioavailable for your body to extract the nutrients, because if you're in a phase of healing, you want your body, your digestive system, to do as less work as possible, right? So that way it can focus on healing. You don't want your digestive system to have to be breaking down and working constantly. And so you want to eat foods that are more bioavailable to you, meaning your body has an easier time extracting the nutrients from them. So nuts and seeds, fats like that, those are really hard for our bodies to extract the nutrients. So you want to essentially eat things like grass-fed butter, coconut, ghee, avocados. Olive oil is a gray area. I use olive oil, but again, I don't cook with it.
Yeah.
I cook with ghee or coconut oil, or I just saute in bone broth. Or the fat around the bone broth, that's called tallow. That's highly stable fat. And so your body it doesn't go rancid as easily when you're cooking.
Wow.
Bet you weren't expecting that answer.
I was not expecting that. You remind me of like the way that Whitney and I kind of work with like everything they've been telling you about what you do for your emotional regulation is wrong. You're like that for food.
Oh no.
No. It's good. It's good, right? It's like deconditioning everything you know about food.
Yeah.
Nutrition. So then real quick, what don't we know about? So that's the 4353, that's for fats and oils. And then we have the 360, which is all about glucose. So sugar, like I have high glucose. So I'm like trying not to eat a lot of sugar, but does my body still need it? I mean, yes, right?
For sure.
So is it true that not all sugars are created equal?
1000%. So what I recommend is you pair your sugar or your, glucose with a stable fat and a protein. And in my opinion, you don't even need to look at carbs as sugar. You want to look at different categories. So if you want something sweet, instead of going for something with no minerals attached to it, because that goes straight into your bloodstream, you want to do like raw honey, or even maple syrup, pure maple syrup if you have to. But if you have an issue with glucose, then pairing that stuff with protein and fat is going to allow your blood sugar levels to be more stabilized. So instead of avoiding the glucose, you want to give your body what it needs, especially as a woman, to thrive. But you need to allow your body to know how to utilize it, because if we're just pumping our body full of, fast carbs, then it just, again, goes straight into the bloodstream. It doesn't really attach to the cells. And that's when you see the mood spikes, blood glucose levels go crazy. So carbohydrates that I recommend that are eaten are ripe fruit, like I said, raw honey, and root vegetables. Those are really, really beautiful for especially a woman. And if you think of, you can connect it to nature as well, like root vegetables, you're digging roots. Women we have rooted energy, right? And so that's why we pair with that so well.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So then the next format energy we have is the 952, which is proteins.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about proteins?
Okay.
Or meat?
Meat. Yeah. So again, the protein you want to look at your macronutrients as what's bioavailable and what's not. And we already kind of touched on bioavailability. So what proteins aren't bioavailable, again, are nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, because they contain those anti-nutrients that we spoke about. Also muscle meats. Which is, most people think that you should be eating muscle meats, like, lean chicken. But the issue with that is that they contain high amounts of inflammatory amino acids. And so when there's excess amino acids, our thyroid production represses, and our stress hormones go up, which makes our metabolism kind of slow. So you want to focus on protein sources that are more bioavailable, like pasture-raised eggs, raw dairy, not to be confused with pasteurized dairy, raw dairy, gelatin, again, bone broth, shellfish, grass-fed beef, like red meats, like that.
I thought red meats weren't good for us.
Right. Everyone thinks that.
Is that not true? That's exciting.
So the study actually that catapulted that out was agenda driven. So if you look at study, if you ever question something, look at the study, scroll all the way down and look at who funded that study, who backed that one up. A lot of them are agenda driven. And actually that study, the information was cherry picked by the person that was trying to create his agenda. Because he was a plant-based person. Anyway, but that is all context. So what is red meat not? It's not good for you in terms of what? So the red meat that study was focusing on was conventional, pumped full of hormones, and sprayed with, the feed was soy, herbicide, pesticides, all the conventional soy, all those things that of course is going to drive up your adrenaline, your cortisol, your stress hormones, inflammation in the body. When you are eating grass-fed, clean protein, red meat from that natural source, and it's paired with like certain greens that allow your body to absorb its nutrients, it can be absolutely healing to the body.
Wow. So do you not eat chicken at all?
I do eat chicken for sure.
Okay.
I do. I roast the whole chicken. I
Yeah.
don't really use like chicken breast, but I do the whole chicken. I eat chicken off the bone. And then if I do chicken breast or things like that, it's occasional. And I cook it in like bone broth. I pair it nicely with easily to digest foods that are gonna allow my body to absorb the nutrients.
Well, this blew my fucking mind.
One more question about meat. I'm shocked right now that you didn't mention liver at all.
Yeah, thank you.
Because
Liver
that's
is
gross, Whitney.
It
no,
is, but Madeline
Kidding.
talks
it's my
about it
best
all
friend.
the time.
Liver, I have seen change. It changed my life. It changed my family's life, health wise. It's helped so many of my clients. Organ meats in general are known as nature's multivitamin. If you look at like any tribal, you know, Whitney's cracking up. If you look at, you know, our ancestors or any women in tribes throughout the world, women that are pregnant, whenever their men come back with an animal, they are always given the organ meats to eat first because they are so nutrient dense, they are so healing. It's literally like nature's multivitamin. So
Okay, so the liver of what?
beef liver is the best.
Okay.
Um,
Not like my ex-boyfriend. So like, how do you cook it?
yeah, I again in my cookbooks I have amazing recipes where you can hide it.
Okay.
Perfect. I hide it in my kids' food all the time. You can also chop it up. You probably wouldn't like this, but you can chop it up and freeze it and take it as like a supplement.
Oh, I think I saw that on your Instagram. I was like, what did she just say this is? I
Yeah.
think you said it was frozen liver.
Or you can dehydrate it and grind it up and make supplements of your own, like put it in capsules instead of purchasing that because it's very expensive. But yeah,
But
super.
we can find that information in your cookbooks.
Yes.
Okay.
I promise you, at once you get going with it, it's not that bad. I was the same.
Like I'm intrigued, but also I'm like,
Oh, your reactions make me so happy I asked that question.
yeah, I'm very glad you asked that question. I am intrigued though. Like I kind of want to try it, but I don't want to cook it. I want someone else to do it. Okay. Any last minute words? I mean, I think we've kept you for almost an hour.
Uh-oh, did I lose you?
No, we're here.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, Madeline, thank you so much for being here and thank you for giving us all of that information. I have a lot to think about. I'm going to share all of your links and where people can find you in the show notes. Anything else? We're good?
No, thank you guys
Cool.
so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have any like courses or I know you do one-on-ones. Do you have any courses where you teach people how to do this stuff?
I do. I have a course that's coming out on the 19th, actually.
Okay.
It's called the One Nourished Mother's course. It goes along with the cookbook, but it's like in depth for people like you that would need the help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.